Hi, y'all. It's me, Danny C, with Talk is Deep. I know, sorry, weird parts. I was just trying to think what else to say. Welcome back. Thank y'all for tuning in to another episode. And with this episode, I think I'm proud. Well, I'm kind of proud of the writing I did. This first part is going to be a lot of like terminology and more like facts rather than me just speaking. So thank you for taking the journey with me. So to get into it though, I have a joke to start off this episode about being bipolar. So, there's this philosopher I recently discovered. He's kind of the opposite of Dostoevsky, if anyone knows who that is. But his name is Franz Kafka, if I'm saying that right. He's also another Russian philosopher. And he says, I cannot make you understand. I cannot make anyone understand what is happening inside me. I cannot explain it myself. And when I first read that quote, it made me think of that SpongeBob episode where Patrick has like a secret box in the whole episode. Basically, SpongeBob is trying to find out what the secret is. So Patrick, close to the end of the episode, SpongeBob's like, "You may be an open book, SpongeBob, but it's for me to know and you to never find out. The inner machinations of my mind are enigma." That's the thing I got from that quote. But more on a deeper level, it's kind of like the perfect way to describe being bipolar, or honestly, I think having any mental disorder. You don't really know what someone's going through unless you yourself are suffering from that same, I don't want to say affliction, but disorder. And hopefully with this episode, it clears up a lot about if you have anyone in your life that is bipolar, or maybe if someone has mental disorder, it gives you more sympathy towards them. And that would be great if that's what it helps. Well, here's the actual joke I wanted to start off with. Thompson is also bipolar, one of my favorite comedians as well. She has this joke saying, bipolar is like not knowing how to swim. It might be embarrassing to tell people, and it might be hard to take you certain places. But they have arm floaties. And if you just take your arm floaties, you can go wherever the hell you want to. Which is very true, I think. So the core of this, right? I think I'm talking about this because, it's not that I am defined by my disorder. I do have this disorder. Well, that's what my therapist has to say. And it does help to say that. And obviously, like, I think a lot of things, the way I try to perceive and go through life is that there's pros and cons to everything. And I like to believe that my disorder helps me and shapes me how I think, how I create, how I love, how I live. And I don't let it define me, but it's definitely a part of my identity. So I think a good starting point is to say common stereotypes. Because I think people right away assume bipolar disorder is like moody, mood swings, they're kind of crazy all over the place. And that's just not the case, Yeah, sure, like we have what's called mania, and it can make you do a lot of irrational things, but I think anyone can have mania, just bipolar people suffer through it more. Not a stereotype is just take medication, you'll be fine. But, medication is complicated, and, some people think it's the only answer. Other people think it's not it's not an answer to the problem. It's just a solution in a way. A solution to the homeless problem could just be to do the purge, right? That's a solution, but that's not a good answer to the solution and the problem. So again, bad analogy, but it's the only one I could think of on the spot. The analogy or the metaphor is it's like living on a hardcore roller coaster, and it should become for warning saying, people have died on this ride, proceed with care. It's not just trauma or I would say moodiness. It's a chemical imbalance in the brain. And, I think it's sometimes both linked to trauma, but there's a lot of scientific facts saying that's mostly genetic. So, which is not to say that it's not trauma caused. It can be caused by trauma. Just doctors, in my findings, I found that says it's more prone and linked to genetic rather than just being from trauma. So quick definition, guys. Bipolar disorder is also known as manic depression. It's a treatable mood disorder. It is marked by extreme shifts in mood, energy, thinking, and behavior. These shifts aren't normal mood swings. They can last hours, days, weeks, even months. And I just want to like emphasize that it's not just like emotions or moodiness, it's cycles. Like it can even be triggered seasonally. So I think everyone kind of understands that, and that whenever the summer's gone, the next season's fall and then winter, and the cold in a way is like a metaphor for the isolation and sadness that people go through. Holidays can sometimes be stressful for people or triggering due to not everyone coming from the best family home situations. So I think I can really relate to that. I think for me personally, though, it's not the holidays that make me so stressed. It's more seasonal, and I can definitely see why people, even if you aren't have a mental disorder, why the seasons can make you be all moody and broody. Bipolar disorder is serious, guys. That's really why I wanted to talk about this, because I wanted to advocate for my fellow bipolar people on the world. I think it's about under 5% that suffers in the United States alone with this disorder. And there's different types, which I'll get more into later. But, I guess the best way to visualize it is whenever you're in a low state or you're depressed because of it, it kind of feels like you're drowning, and so much so that it can like keep you in bed all day. I know I've had few of those days where I just can't even drag myself out of bed. I just stay in and sleep. Not only sleep, but just stay in bed all day. Another point to make is that many people suffer years before correct diagnosis. With me too, that definitely happened. It says here that in my notes that about 7 to 10 people are misdiagnosed at least once in their lifetime. I think even recently there's another podcast out called Friends Keep Secrets with Benny Blanco and Little Dicky, and they had Selena Gomez on, which is a famous alumni of being bipolar, and she talks about how it took her 4 therapists just to get diagnosed correctly. So it's a struggle. I think it took me 2, but not because one therapist wasn't good enough for me. It's just that the first person I saw diagnosed me as bipolar 2. I mean, by bipolar depression, and then a year and a half after that, I ended up just seeing another therapist because the other one left. And then I think she correctly diagnosed me as being bipolar. The average time to correctly diagnose someone takes 10 years. So there's two sides of being bipolar. There's high highs and low lows. So I think I wish I had some kind of little diagram or screen I could show y'all to visualize it. But again, like going back to the roller coaster ride analogy, I think normal roller coasters kind of do this very like gradually for most people if you don't suffer from bipolar disorder. But if you do, it can be extremely high and then go extremely low. And then it can do it kind of rapid. Like it's more of a rapid hardcore ride. And just keep that kind of visual in mind. Key symptoms to mention: sadness, unexplained crying, almost like you wake up one day and you're just sad for no reason. It's not like anything even triggered it. Sometimes it's just the fact that part of the disorder is that it is a chemical imbalance in the brain. And so that what tends to kind of happen. For me personally, that's what happens. I know that I think other people with bipolar can relate. Loss of interest in things you enjoy, sleep changes, often too much sleep or too little sleep, low energy, lethargic, which again goes hand in hand with not sleeping enough or sleeping too much, feelings of guilt or worthlessness, brain fog, trouble focusing, social withdrawal, suicidal thoughts in very severe cases. So all these things, very similar to depression, which we're almost there, and I promise you I will get more into about why I'm listing off these symptoms. Apologize. See, I'm trying, guys. Trying for y'all. So people with bipolar often suffer more time depressed than manic, meaning, if you've heard any stories or know anything about this disorder, some of the crazy things that bipolar people do is very irrational. Like look at Kanye West and Britney Spears, how they get on the news and it's like they're out of control. Like Kanye was, I think all last year he was just doing a lot of crazy things, and then now Britney's on it the same kind of destructive path. In a way, you can see it as self-sabotaging, self-destructive. I sympathize with them because it's hard to get to that place and have like self-awareness what you're doing. You really do become almost like a whole nother person. I think from my experience, I've never been that out of control, but something similar. Well, I had an instance where I did get out of control, but I think, thank goodness, I have a support system, as well as I feel like it took a lot of years of therapy and self-therapizing myself to learn to have self-awareness about when I'm going in that state or I am in that state, so I don't ever get out of control. So again, if you can't really visualize it and you don't really know what's going on with the people I just mentioned, there's some few movies I want to mention that have bipolar disorder characters in it. They're very good examples. And I think I'll get into them more later in the second part of this series, I guess I want to call it. On the Civil Line Playbook with Bradley Cooper, Robert De Niro, and Jennifer Lawrence. Sorry, I was saying Scarlett Johansson. Jennifer Lawrence. Very good movie. Highly recommend. It won an Oscar. All the Bright Places. It's another good movie. It's on Netflix with Ellie Fanning. I forget the actor's name, but he's pretty young. He's been in a few of the more recent movies. And this one episode of Modern Love, which is on Amazon Prime, with Anna Hathaway in it. And I think that episode especially shows just how bipolar people struggle with this disorder. To drive the point home, like the low depression state of being bipolar, you really do shut down as a person. And I think you become the world's biggest self-pity party. Like, woe is me, life sucks. Why am I sad? Like, I don't deserve to be here. Yeah, it's like I don't matter. And it sucks. And if anyone's ever felt that way, please seek help. Reach out to loved ones, reach out to friends, reach out to family members, or even your therapist, or go to therapy. All these things help to combat when you're in that low state. Now the highs. So the highs are classified as mania and hypomania. So first with mania, well, they both the same thing, but with mania lasts longer. And depending on what type you have, it lasts several days or several weeks, or just 1 or 2 days, and maybe just a week. So the core symptoms of mania or hypomania is excessive energy, racing thoughts, rapid or pressured speech, decreased need for sleep, inflated confidence or grandiose ideas, poor judgment, paranoia, and some of the risky behaviors while all in this state, I call it. Your spending habits, you just kind of blow through money. You have, I don't know how I even describe it, like hypersexual energy, but you also have you kind of will do like irrational or bad choices when it comes to sex. That could be, I'll get into it in a second, but let me finish this list. You might overindulge in substances, which is whether alcohol, drugs, all sorts of things. And you also just like an adrenaline junkie. Like you just want to do like crazy, exciting things because since you're at this high level state, the things that you want to do at that state are how you want to feel, like to keep you in that state. And you can also be very irritable, agitated, and many other things I can go on. But to go back to example for the sex thing, it's like I know so I'm in a group therapy or group support group. I should say group therapy. I'm in a support group, and sometimes we talk about certain things that we've done, and I'm not gonna name out names. I'm just saying that there's stories of, oh, I've cheated on my boyfriend because I was hypersexual and I had sex with someone, or someone else talks about how they gambled away like $20,000, or they just randomly bought a car because it was their dream car and they didn't have the money for that. They just felt the need to buy their car because, come on, like, when am I going to get the chance? That's kind of how it feels. And then again, with the substances, it's just when you're on mania, especially, doing substances feels like a good idea, but it's not. But even when you're not, I would like to state that it can cause you to go into mania. Even caffeine, if you have too much caffeine, you can cause yourself to go into a mania. So key nuances I want to mention is that mania can become psychotic in very severe cases. Me personally, it's happened to me once, and it's very scary. I don't know if I'll go into it by myself. If I would have someone on to talk about these sort of things, that would be great. Preferably, I would like someone who has a psychology degree or is a psychiatrist in some way. And then hypomania is just a mild but still more disruptive form. And I feel like the best way to describe hypomania is just like getting high, but not even like really high, just like you smoke like a J or a blunt. And that's kind of how you feel. Like, not the scary thing, but the weird feeling about that is that you don't really know if you are hypomania. I think more often than not, though, most people, when you're in hypomania, you're more likely to be self-aware that you're in this state. Rather, when you're manic, you might not be so self-aware about it, if that makes sense. I know it's confusing, but I think lately, the last few years, I've been very self-aware of when I'm hypomania rather than when I'm manic. So yeah, again, hypomania can feel good in the moment, which makes it tricky. But then it all comes crashing down just like a high. And the next day you just feel kind of shitty, but not like hungover or anything. A little sad, maybe even depressed even. So I'm not going to get into all the types, but there are 4 different types of bipolar. There is bipolar 1, which has full manic episodes and often includes major depression. And bipolar 2 is more often you have hypomania and major depression, and not full mania. You will, or probably do, experience mania, but you really won't have as many as maybe bipolar 1 has. Don't quote me on this, but I believe that Kanye and Britney Spears, just examples, have bipolar 1. And then I think, again, don't quote me on this because I don't want some backlash from Selena Gomez fans that Selena Gomez has bipolar 2. And that's what I have as well. There's also all this other one I can't really name, but it's like cyclothymia, which is just milder, but you have more chronic mood instability. And then there's just rapid cycling, which is just, I don't really know, but the Modern Love episode I'm talking about, apparently that's what Anna Hathaway's character suffers with. So what I read about it, just that you don't really have manic or hypomania episodes at all, but your mood drastically can change in like an instant, like in a day. So one day you're like full of life and it's like you're the main character and life's a musical. And then something may trigger you and then immediately you just go into a depressive state. And they don't ever really last truly long, but they're rapid. So that's unfortunate with that one. So if you see where I'm kind of going with that, everyone's presentation is different. No one ever is truly the same, which is why I believe, and also why I think it's so hard to diagnose being bipolar, because there's just no one path to show that, oh yes, this is what bipolar is. It's very complicated. It's a variety of different symptoms and what someone could show when they're, have this disorder. And really, I don't know how to say, if I'm saying this word right, but it should really be called multipolar disorder, because the disorder really coincides with a bunch of other conditions. And the conditions I want to name off real quick are anxiety disorders, ADHD, OCD, hypochondria, personality disorders, eating and or impulsive control disorders. And so just to double down, yeah, it never really shows up alone. It's always why I think it makes diagnosing and treatment so complicated, and why mental health is never so clean and simple. There's always overlapping symptoms, and what I think makes life very hard for people who suffer through any kind of neurodivergent disorder. Which is a good segue to saying that ever since COVID, I believe mental health has been taking a very main priority for a lot of people, and that's very good. I think the world society needs to focus on the fact that a lot of our problems come from having bad mental health, and bad mental health could also just be the fact that people are suffering through disorders. And so it's increasingly becoming considered part of the neurodivergent umbrella. The brain structure and function differences are documented. If you want to look up the research yourself, you can. I've seen it, and I think I should, if I can, I'll try to reference some of the works cited that I got where I created my notes from. It shares genetic overlap with conditions like ADHD and autism. So again, why they're classifying more as a neurodivergent disorder. But still, that's being classified mainly as a psychiatric mood disorder. And unlike most or some neurotypical types, bipolar often requires ongoing medical management. So now we go into the causes. It's estimated that 73% to 93% is the risk of getting, what's it called? Bipolar disorder, because it definitely runs in families, is what they're finding. But there's other contributors too. There's environmental stressors, trauma, and childhood adversities. There's psychosocial factors, and then there's sleep deprivation. So, take that if you will. You can research it yourself if you want to. I think I have some reference again. I'll put that in there. But it's like the whole psychology debate of nature versus nurture. So what is the actual cause of it? And again, I don't think it really matters too much what actually caused it. It's just that it could help you with your treatment and healing to know what it could be from or what it stems from. And I think there are definitely signs in early childhood, which later, are hard to catch, especially during the teenage formative years, because no matter what, I think everyone goes through like teenage angst or teenage I can't say it right now, teenage like moodiness. Especially then, it's just like, okay, are you just, being a teenager, or are you actually suffering with like a disorder? And in my case, I think maybe it's a little bit of both. That, part of me was genetically just positioned to gain this disorder. But another part of me says, okay, well, a lot of the other contributors that probably did cause this as well. And to close it off, I have treatments and hopes. So the main pillars, especially what I do, and anyone else who has this disorder, I think what does is therapy. Definitely see a therapist, or just to engage in some sort of experience is what I like to say. You can do, camping to be one with nature helps, or have a support group, have a support system, medication, which you would have to go to a doctor or a psychiatrist, specializes in, writing the medications and kind of diagnosing you to figure out what you need to take. And then from there, you can figure out the certain type of medication you need, because it's not one size fits all for everybody. It varies definitely for people. I know I had to take Prozac first, and then this other mood stabilizer, and then I took one other one, and then now I just self-medicate with other things. Another good treatment plan / holistic thing to do is just have a routine and have a very good sleep schedule or sleep regulation. Exercise helps a lot. I think everyone can speak, no matter what in life, like you're suffering from, whether it's just not even having a disorder, but just, a stressor in your life, having some outlet to vent emotions or feelings is exercise. And it's very good for everyone, I think, to have some sort of exercise routine. Just eating healthy also helps. And I think the severe case is psychotherapy. And I don't know too much about it, but I have heard of basically where it's not like lobotomy, but I feel like lobotomy is a severe case to try to fix a disorder, right? But there's one I've called, I don't know what the name is, but they shock your brain, which you can do. And I can't speak much about it because I have no idea about it. But I think that is something that is kind of severe. But I think overall, you should educate yourself because I see it as if you were sick, right, and you had, let's say, cancer, you wouldn't just not study it. You would want to research what type you have, all statistics, and what you can do to help, uh, you know, prevent it in the future if you cure it, if it's hereditary, what are the causes, and along the lines of that, you can do this again. That's what you can do with any kind of disorder or symptom you may have, which I say symptom of life, because life, I think, can make anyone crazy. So my treatment works for me is definitely having an exercise routine, a cleaning routine, just control what I can. Yoga and meditation helps for me a lot too. I love doing yoga and meditation, and yoga itself is just good because to stretch after exercise is just amazing. And then self-medication, what I said. I think y'all know what that means. So to wrap it all up, there is no one size fits all for this treatment. If you suffer any mental disorder, I think you can relate to that. If you don't, I hope that this episode was informative. And again, you're more empathetic and sympathize with people who do suffer any mental disorder. So I think anyone can live a very stable, fulfilling life if they have something that they consider like a handicap that affects them in their life. And management is not easy, but you can definitely find a balance in life and work through triggers. There is no, oh, I'm cured. You're just stable, I think. And it requires personal agency and ongoing work to constantly be self-aware of what you're going through. I think the best way to put it is that George Orwell, a very famous author, writer, said once, to see what is in front of one's nose needs a constant struggle. I think this resonates with the difficulty we often have in gaining clarity, especially when we're overwhelmed by our own emotions or mental state. It's kind of like similar to Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken, It meditates on the weight of our choices and their far-reaching consequences, which can feel particularly heavy when we're caught in it. So there you have it. Until next time, which will be kind of honestly right after this. I wanted to specifically break this up into two parts because the first part is, I think, a lot of facts and just, notes that I kind of read off, while this next part is kind of me trying to talk about it from my own personal experience without turning into like a TED Talk. So I really hope that y'all tune in for the next one, and until next time.